What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Good day or evening to everyone out there in the decoding world. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality. And today we're going to be breaking down and decoding pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure decoded are two emotions while we're all stuck down here in the game of life called duality, or duality called the game of life. We have these two emotions. We have a lot of pain, we have a lot of pleasure. Inescapable down here in the upside down world, otherwise known as Wonderland. So what is it all about, folks? What does it mean? Let's get into this. And, before I get started, I'm going to suggest highly that you grab a set of headphones, like I always try to suggest. Get immersed in this decode. Block out the outside world and, maybe take some notes, but, you're going to get some confirmations in this. And again, pain and pleasure, folks, are written in the software called the game of life. That's why we all experience it. And I'm going to show you how directly connected these two emotions are, what runs these two emotions, what has given us these two emotions. So let's get right into it, folks. In the zero position, the intro, which is what I'm doing right now. In the number one position, we're going to talk about the currency of emotions. The currency of pain and pleasure. Number two, the devil god. Number three, slice of pain and pleasure pie. How about a slice of pie? I'll take a slice of pleasure. And maybe you'll take a slice of pain, and maybe we'll just swap forks and try out each other's pies. And then, of course, in the last position, what did you see? So this is not going to be an extra long presentation, but still there's going to be a lot of good meat and potatoes. And folks, this is going to once again show you that man and woman are being used to play out the game of life and the software and the script. And that's what this is all about, folks. So let's get into the first topic called the currency of emotions, pain and pleasure. And, this is what it looks like. I placed this out on social media and some of you responded. Thank you for your comments. And you can see that, pain on the left side is a total numerology of the number 15. And then the counterpart to that is, of course, pleasure, which is the number 33, that master number 33. And again, that's why, if you're a decoder, you can't just use numerology or gematria and then start to connect words, because there's so many words that connect to so many of the big numbers. So it gets watered down, and and that's why I try to strive to just use one or two ciphers as well, because when you add multiple ciphers, you can water it down. But nonetheless, see, pain and pleasure is 15 and 33. When you bring in the other layer that I love to use, the cards of illumination, the 52 cards in the typical playing deck of cards, that was a play on words. 52 cards matching the 52 weeks, 4 suits matching the 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter is a match to the suits, hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades. Great accuracy with these cards. And notice that the 15th card, which is a direct match to the word pain, is the 2 clubs card. And what's interesting is, 2, the number 2, it is a representation of duality. Duality means 2. And then pleasure's the 33, and that's a match of the 7 diamonds card. Remember the crucifixion, the age of Christ, 33? 33 vertebrae in our spinal cords, 33 steps. There's a lot of things linked to that 33, but it's linked to pleasure. And when you look at the cards, it's card 2 and card 7, and that's 27 when you bring it together, and that's a direct match of the word currency. Even the word current is a match to the number 27. And when you bring in another layer, folks, the medicine cards, which uses animals, insects, and reptiles for its symbology, it's the dragonfly card. Card number 27. What does the dragon represent? Well, it's the sine wave. See in the background, I got a wave here, and that is the sine and cosine waves of trigonometry that make up pi. And you can measure these using numberempire.com. If you go to numberempire.com, you're going to see the sine and cosine waves right here at the bottom. You can start measuring. This is advanced decoding. And folks, this is where you start to really paint the picture of how this reality works. Measuring the sine and cosine waves. So there it is. Excuse me, currency. How about that? Pain and pleasure from numerology leads to the cards, which lead to the word currency through the card's numbers, which lead to the dragonfly card, which leads, of course, to Jupiter. Jupiter equals 27. Cobalt, we're going to get into all that, but that is the start of this, folks, and it's pain and pleasure making up the sine wave, the sin wave, the sine and cosine waves, and it's the great dragon that got hurled down that runs all this. Not figuratively, but you can clearly see the code being expressed, how this software is written. So when you bring in the medicine cards on another level and you match up the pain and pleasure, 15 and 33, here are the 2 cards in the medicine deck that actually make up the 15 and 33. It's the wolf and the weasel. And I want you to notice that they both start with the letter W. And the letter W, of course, is the 23rd letter in the English alphabet. There it is, 23. And what is 23? Keep your eyes on this Chaldean right here. 23 is linked to the word crown. It's linked to the word blood. It's linked to the word history. They're all 23, folks, using the same cipher, numerology, not mixing and matching. They're all a direct match. And the W is the 23rd letter. How about that? Crown, blood, history, pain and pleasure. The crown runs that. And when you do the numerology on the wolf and weasel, it's going to give you a total numerology output of 47, which is a match to this word right here called tetragrammaton, which means the box, which is where pain and pleasure is contained inside the 3-dimensional cube of space that we all live inside of, including pi, and it's the tetragrammaton that runs and operates this reality. Something to that extent. How about that? These folks, these were created in 1988, these cards. 1988. This is the oldest known numerology cipher on the planet, Chaldean. And yet we have 2 completely different systems linking up together and showing us what the code is and how it's being expressed. And I got way more to support what I'm showing right here. Way more. So let's keep going. Let's get into the devil god. The devil god, folks. And, when you observe pain and pleasure using the tarot now, pain is a 15, and the 15th card in the tarot is the devil card. Now, this, of course, has so many different symbols and meanings to it, but how fitting, folks, that pain is linked to the devil card. But where do we get pleasure from? Pleasure's 33. Because you see, when we say the devil, which is right on the tarot card right there, when you say that spell, when you speak that spell and say the devil, it ends up becoming the number 33. 33. So quite literally what you have is you have pain and pleasure that's run and operated by this devil card, which is operated by the number 15, which of course ends up reducing down to the number 6, and the 6th chakra is the third eye, the pineal gland. 6 is, what's really fascinating is the 6th card in the medicine card deck is the snake. It's the snake. So the devil and the wolf, because the wolf is 15. See, the devil and the wolf. How about that, folks? Two different systems created by two different people, yet here we are syncretizing them. The wolf ends up giving its energy to the snake. And then if you go into the tarot, the 6th card is the lover's card. So you see how that syncretizes? And there it is. This is the representation of our pineal gland, the tree of life, tree of knowledge, the Godhead, and then probably the star Sirius behind that. 6 is the first master number. But it's all containing itself in pain and pleasure. The male-female is pain and pleasure. And it's run by this card right here, and that's why it's called the devil god. How about that, folks? Remember, folks, the word God equals the number 14. The word time equals, we're going to get into all that. So that's what I'm saying is every time we say the this and the that, you're adding on the time god before it. This owns and operates all words that precede it when you speak the spells. The 14 does. So it's the time god running this devil character. It's the way this works. Owning and operating pain and pleasure, which is what we're all operating on. And so, when you spell out the devil god, when you say the devil god, of course, it becomes the number 47, which is a direct match once again to that word called tetragrammaton. Remember, folks, Washington, D.C., White House, Georgetown, they all equal the number 47. Who do you think is running and operating the nation's capital? It's certainly not man, folks. They're just carrying out their orders. They're not writing the blueprint. They're being used. This is what's running Washington, D.C. And it's what runs our pain and pleasure. That's why, when you go to this right here, which I've shown so many times, and 45 means the box. 45 is rhodium, but there it is, folks. This scripture, Isaiah 45 verses 7. 45 is rhodium. 45 is the numbers 1 through 9 added up. It's the box that we all live in. If you haven't seen my video on the architect of the universe, please check it out. It's clearly in there using pure math. But it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. You can exchange it with different words. Some Bibles say calamity instead of evil, but it's all the same thing, folks. All the same thing. It's this God that runs this reality, maybe even created it. I don't know yet. It's very tough to distinguish between the two. But clearly, that's what's running the box. The God of time, the devil god. And it runs our pain and pleasure. And when you break down pain and pleasure from an even different angle, we add on another layer, folks. And that's why, like, when you keep adding layers on, folks, it clearly shows you that it gets more detailed and more detailed. And just there's no way man could ever code something like this because we're adding so many layers to this. And why would man even try to code pain and pleasure? What's the point? This has nothing to do with sports. This has nothing to do with movies. This has nothing to do with music. It's about our emotions. It's about how human beings end up expressing themselves or feeling themselves, pain and pleasure. And notice that pain in the elements of the periodic table, matching that to 15, is this element called phosphorus. And, if you study Lucifer, he's known through the Greek as phosphorus. 15, again, is that devil card. And what's fascinating is phosphorus has an atomic weight of 30. And 30 is linked to this number right there. And we're gonna get into that, folks. But you should know, like, the 30 is linked to this right here, the rabbit card. Down the rabbit hole we go into Wonderland. It's where the story of Alice in Wonderland comes into play. And then pleasure's 33, which is a match to this element called arsenic, which is a direct match to the Christ because Jesus equals 74, Lucifer equals the number 74. Christ was crucified at the age of 33. We have 33 vertebrae in our back. Why would Christ be crucified in a direct match to the number of vertebrae we have in our spinal cords? Why would that story link up like that? It's all connected, folks. It's all playing off one another. All those stories embed themselves into our software, and it makes the story stronger. Pain and pleasure, the dualistic realm that we live under. And when you do the alchemy of phosphorus and arsenic coming off of pain and pleasure, 15 and 33, using that trusty calculator, there it is, what we get is the 105.896. 105.896. And it's tied to what the Freemasons call the great architect of the universe. 105. Great architect of the universe. How about that, folks? And the subtleties is it's 27 letters. What's 27? 27 is currency. It's derived from these cards right there, from the numerology of these two words, pain and pleasure. It's the dragonfly. It's the sine wave, the dragon wave that we all make up in this matrix reality, and it's being mined for the energy. It takes our energy, our emotions. We're being mined for our pain and pleasure, folks, to keep this battery alive. That's how this game works. And it's this architect, and I don't even know, is it the great architect? Did it create this reality or did it hijack it? Big question mark on that, folks. Stand a new layer of neutrality. I don't know. I can't answer that. There's no one that can prove it. Just use these theories through these models and platforms and through all these decoding methods. But clearly you could see when you use multiple layers, it tells you more of a story. And then, of course, you got to use your logic and discernment on what it is that you're going to want to believe. And as I say, make the truth your own. That's why I say right in the beginning of this video, these are my opinions and truths. I'm not going to force them upon you. Yeah, I'm very stern and rigid in my beliefs, but folks, I'm not going to force it on you. I'm going to defend my position just like you defend yours. When you take 15 and 33 from pain and pleasure and you add up those two numbers, combining this duality, it's going to give you this number right here, number 48. 48, which, is, if you know the numbers, 4 represents the heart chakra, the midway point of the coloring spectrum. Green represents the color green. And it's cadmium. And look at what its weight is, folks. 113. Again, going to that 113, and it's linked to the 30th prime number. And what's 30? It's the rabbit. The rabbit card, folks. Going down that rabbit hole. Entering into pain and pleasure. Owned and operated by something outside of our physical reality. And that's when you go right back to the scripture of the Lord doing all these things. And that's why I say, folks, man's being used. And, your mind is not your own. Can I prove that? No. But you can't prove me that you control your mind. There's no way to possibly prove it. So then we get into this 113 off this 48. Let me go back again. So remember, pain and pleasure, 15 and 33. When you add up that 15 plus 33, you're going to get the number 48, creating our dualistic emotions. And that's, the 30th prime number. But you see that 113 off of that cadmium right there, cadmium 113, 48, pain and pleasure. When you look at this, you clearly can see that what the Gnostics call the demiurge, it's a match. It just has an extra zero, but there it is. The square cipher, folks, is a measurement of the cube, which is the three-dimensional space that we all live in, folks. Make no mistake about it. That's what the square cipher is going to tell you through its expressions, is what's going on in the cube, the square. So, of course, I'd highly suggest starting to use it, but you can't just use it for everything and get an outcome the way you want it to be, because it's a very specialized cipher. But in this case, when you're measuring things that run the cube, it's this demiurge character. The Gnostics called it. This is not a new word. This is very ancient, this word. And it's linked to the 30th prime number being the number 113, which is linked to cadmium being the 113. Which is linked to the 48, which is linked by adding up 15 and 33. So clearly you can see pain and pleasure are inside that cube. It's run by the demiurge according to this methodology. And of course, that's a direct match of the demiurge and the Chaldean. There's the 30 again, folks. So clearly you can see that our emotions of pain and pleasure are owned and operated by this demiurge. Who's the demiurge? Well, keep your eyes on that number 30. When you go back to this numerology cipher, keep your eye on the Chaldean right here, and you type in the New Age name of the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, the God of the Bible, that owns and operates the Old and New Testament. It's the number 30. It's right there, folks. It's the yin-yang in the English, but it's the number 30. And there it is. It's a direct match to that word demiurge, which is a direct match to what it runs, which is the box. And it's right there connected to the prime and the number 113, which is connected to cadmium's weight, which is connected to its protons, which is a connection of pain and pleasure added up, 15 plus 33. So clearly you can see this is how the code is expressing itself. Whoever wrote this software tightly woven, wrote it just like this. This is exactly how it's woven. And, folks, this is why, and again, I'm not anti-nothing. I'm simply neutral, and I'm just showing you how the code is expressing itself. These people, when they put this on their head, when they worship, when they use the books that they use, they're paying tribute to this energy right there. That's a fact, folks. This is not a secret. When you go into the Mecca in Saudi Arabia, what do you think that big black cube is that they all prance around and touch and pray to and bow down to? It's the same thing these guys are doing. There's no difference, just packaged differently. But it's all pain and pleasure. They're literally paying tribute to the pain and pleasure. That's what this is all about. That's what this whole game is, folks. It's like dangling the carrot of pleasure, but you're going to get pain anyway. It's an unavoidable being down here in duality. So, cadmium's the highlight of pain and pleasure. Remember, pain and pleasure, 15 plus 33 equals 48. That's cadmium. So this is the bridge. Why do I bring the elements? These are bridges to give you more of the story, a more abstract version of the story. Cadmium, the way it got derived its name from is from this word right here called cadmia. Now, let me show you. I want to be very transparent, folks, But when you go to the periodic table and you go down to cadmium, here it is. These are all the clues that you get. You can find it from the history, who found it. You can get the uses and properties, when it was discovered. There's so many different nuggets in here, but here it is. The name is derived from the Latin word cadmia. That's what this element got its name from. So cadmia is 14, which is a direct match of the word time, which is a direct match of the word God. How about that, folks? You got pain and pleasure down here in duality, and we're operating on time. You only get so much of this. Your body doesn't last forever, folks. And the God of time runs it, which, it always points to Chronos. That's why they have a blurred out clock. That's where the story of Chronos comes from. The clock. The God of time running pain and pleasure. So, then we can bring in the medicine cards and the tarot to give you another rendition. 14, 14, 14, God of time and cadmia and, pain and pleasure, all down here in time. And, look at what the 14th card is. It's the mirror of God. It's dog. And then in the tarot, the 14th card is this card called the temperance card. And when you kind of syncretize this, you clearly can see that this angel would be pouring back and forth from pain to pleasure, from pain to pleasure, pleasure to pain, pain to pleasure. Because that's what this card's all about, balance, temperance, card 14, balancing inside the loop of time. Down here in Wonderland. And we're all dogs, folks. We're all dogs. We may not be a dog. You may have a dog. And you're the handler of the dog. But what makes you think there's not a handler of you, running you? Again, you go back to that scripture right here. I do all these things. Whatever created this reality, folks, it's got its hands in all the cookie jars down here. And that little voice in your head, you don't own that voice. It owns you. So let's get into the last topic called the slice of pain and pleasure pie. How about a slice of pie? And you automatically should know what pi is going to be, because it's going to be based off of 3.14, the measurement of a circle, which is what we all create using the sine and cosine waves called pain and pleasure. And this is where, folks, again, there is no way man could ever in a million years code something like this. Because we're not talking about anything that would have to do with enslaving you. We're not talking about something with keeping you busy and blind, or your blind spots, like what sports and music and things that can program you and stuff like that. We're not talking about that. This is real life stuff that we all experience. Pain and pleasure. And in the string of pi, folks, when you take 15 and 33 and you bring them together, which they form duality, are our two emotions, I want you to notice that they occupy 15 and 33. If you type that in, let me show you here. Just again, we're being very transparent. This is off of a website called Symbolism.com. I'm going to leave it in the description so you can just click on it if you want to use it for your decoding. But you can type in any number here up to 2 million digits. It'll tell you where it's found. And there it is, folks. The numeric string 1533, it starts at the 1030th decimal digit of pi. That's where it starts. Notice that number, there's that number 30, can be the number 13, which is linked to gold. But there it is. It starts at the 1030th decimal digit, and it occupies these four spaces because it's a 4-digit number. 1533 occupies the 1030th, the 1301st, the 1000. Oh, I got this. I misspelled that, folks. It should have been 1031. My mistake. 1032 and 1033. But nonetheless, it's not going to make a difference. 1030, 1031, 1032, 1033. So the two numbers in question, folks, based off of pi, which is what we all create and stuck in. We're stuck inside this loop of time. You have pain and pleasure. 1533. Now stick with me on this, folks. Pain, being the number 15, would occupy these two spaces, 1030 and 1031. Again, excuse my typo. 1030 and 1031. Pleasure, being the number 33, would occupy 1032 and 1033. So it would end, pleasure would end at the digits 1033, and pain would end at the digits 1031, or the digit 1031. And folks, look at what we get from this right here, folks. They're both freaking prime numbers. Pain inside the string of pi ends up becoming the 173rd prime number, and then pleasure ends up becoming the 174th prime number. They're in succession with one another. How about that, folks? How is this possible? Because this is the way the code is written, folks. This is what's the software called the game of life. Now let's keep going, because folks, then we bring in the elements of the periodic table. We do the alchemy on this, folks. This is where it gets super interesting. Here are the two elements that match up with the prime numbers that we got from the pain and pleasure from pi, from these two words derived from these digits inside pi. We get ytterbium and lutetium. Ytterbium and lutetium. 173rd prime number, 174th prime number. Coming off of pain and pleasure inside the string of pi. So then when you do the alchemy of these two elements from pain and pleasure, this would be pain, this would be pleasure. The number that you get when you add them up using the trusty calculator is 347.986. 347, folks, using numberempire.com, is the 69th prime number. How about that, folks? Pain and pleasure. Starting off here, 15 and 33, bringing them together, finding them with their primes inside the string of pi. These have nothing to do with one another, but yeah, here we are using pure math and numerology and then alchemy, bringing it all together. We get a 347 from adding up lutetium and ytterbium from pain and pleasure, and it's the freaking 69th prime number, 347. What do you think the odds would be of that to be the case, folks? Well, when you see the code and software, folks, you clearly see this is a tightly woven structure that we're seeing, this code that we're seeing. And man didn't code this, folks. There's way too many moving parts. We're talking about our duality through pain and pleasure. And it links to the number 69. And we found that through the string of pi, folks. How is that possible? Because again, folks, the words we speak are embedded inside the string of pi. The emotions that we feel are expressed through the string of pi. This is the sine and cosine waves. And it's all part of the software, the yin yang. We live in duality, folks. Clearly you can see the connection. When you take the number 347 based off of our pain and pleasure and doing the alchemy of these two elements, 3 is lithium and 47 is silver. Silver is the most conductive element on the entire periodic table. Holmium's the most magnetic. Silver is the most, what was the word? I just lost my train of thought. Conductive. And 3 means pi, folks. 3.14. This expression of energy, folks, right here, it means all of us going down the hole of pi, 3, and dumping down into the box called the tetragrammaton of the 47. You see how this works, folks? This is what the code is showing us. This is what the story is inside this game of life that we're all playing out. And when you add up these two elements, when you do the alchemy of lithium and silver, get out your calculators. If you add up 7.016 and you take 106.905, you add those two up, you're going to get the number 113. And you're going to get the rabbit once again. So again, if you take lithium and silver and you add them up, 7.016 and 106.905 derived from that number 347, you're going to get the number 113. What's 113, folks? 113 is tied to that 30th prime number, which is tied to the rabbit card. You see how that works, folks? And remember, 11 is the number of magic. It's alternating current. And 3 is pi. It's magic going into pi, going down. That's why magicians pull the rabbit out of their hats. I can guarantee you that's why that all started like that, because man's being used. Something's controlling man beyond the physical, and that's why the rabbit is tied to that. And that's why 3 and 47, derived from our yin-yang and derived from our pain and pleasure, is from lithium and silver. And these add up to the number 113, which is right there. It's the 30th prime number, which is why I got the rabbit in the background. We all go good. We get stuck down in time, the loop of time. The time god runs it, called Saturn or Chronos, or the Yod-He-Vahe, or the Tetragrammaton. It goes by many different names. But it runs time. And we only get so much of that. And so here's the overview of what I just expressed to all of you. We got the 347 from lithium and silver, which is what we got. Let me go back, which is what we got from the 69th prime number, which is what we got from adding up ytterbium and lutetium, which we got from pain and pleasure. You see how all this connects? 347, 69th prime number, which means yin-yang, duality, pain and pleasure, going down into lithium and silver, getting down into the rabbit hole, and here it is. Here's the fullest detail of all this, folks. Right from pain and pleasure, lithium and silver, 347. When you add up lithium and silver and do the alchemy of that, you're going to get the number 113, and that's the 30th prime number, folks. And again, I showed this earlier, demiurge equals the number 30. And again, you go back and the New Age name of the demiurge is Jehovah. Right there. It runs the box. Or at least it hijacked it. I don't know, but I know it's running this time. This is the time god. It runs the cube. The three-dimensional cube that we all live inside, and we only get so much time through the string of pi. And there's that demiurge, 113. There's just an extra zero there. Clearly you can see the connections between the square and the Chaldean, because the demiurge runs the cube. And we all went down the rabbit hole, which is where Alice in Wonderland gets his story from. We're in the upside down world, folks. That's how this works. I think this is my last slide. It is. So, folks, clearly the other layer to observe from is taking pain and pleasure that we got from ytterbium and lutetium off of the string of pi, and then doing the alchemy of that with the protons. Ytterbium has 70 protons. Lutetium has 71. 70 plus 71, get out your calculators. It's going to be 141. And there's the 141. Folks, what is pi? 3.141. 3.141. 70 plus 71 is 141. Pain and pleasure stuck inside pi. And look what runs pi, folks. It's cerium, and the clue that this provides is this number 58, which is this right here, called the puppet master. The puppet master. And it comes inside of our mind. That's why Pink Floyd, someone in my head, but it's not me. Check out my decode on Pink Floyd. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And that's tied to this element right here called xenon. When I type this in, I want you to keep your eyes on this English one. There's someone in my head. This is what Pink Floyd, but it's not me. There it is. I'm sorry, it's on the Chaldean right there. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. That's what Pink Floyd wrote in their lyrics on their song called Brain Damage. There it is, 131. When you go to the elements of the periodic table, you're going to link it to this element right here, 54. Look at its weight, 131. Look at the X chromosomes, the flash of creation. It means stranger in the Greek. 54, folks, which is linked to Puppet Master in Sirium. And someone in my head, but it's not me. Pain and pleasure. Puppet Master. Even the number 58, when you go look at Sirium, folks, it's the goddess of agriculture. It's an asteroid. Ceres. You can get into the melting points and get more clues. Kevin Clark's really good at that. Look at the melting point of it in Fahrenheit. 1,470 degrees. There's what 147. What's 47? Tetragrammaton, folks. You just got to look at the clues. That's how all this stuff works. Is when you look at the clues. You can't leave any of these out. And the more clues you look at, the better the story ends up becoming and looking to it and being able to tell you what's going on. But this is what runs our pain and pleasure, the Puppet Master. The Puppet Master. And we're all marionettes. It's why the movie Toy Story came out. I mean, folks, we're just little toys. Man's an experiment. Please check out my decode on Rat in a Cage. Mankind is an experiment. And we're being used for our energetic gold and silver currency. So folks, what is it that you saw during this presentation? This one's a little bit of a shorter one, but I wanted to get this material out because I felt it was, important to get out so you could see, and just to show you once again, folks, that this has nothing to do with any rituals. This has nothing to do with killing anybody. This has nothing to do with music and serenading and trying to, put you into a hypnotic trance. This has nothing to do with movies and predictive programming. This is straight up two emotions that we have in this game of life called pain and pleasure. And it's run by the Puppet Master, folks. And we're stuck in pi. We're stuck in the cube in the box. Pi is inside the cube. This little circle goes inside the cube. I showed that in my Architect of the Universe, and there's a pyramid that's involved with that, which ends up delivering its energy to the reality outside of our physical. That's how all this works with sacred geometry. That's how it all works, folks. So what is it you saw during this presentation? I'd love to hear what you saw. A lot of great decoders out there. And what is it that you saw, folks? So that's all I got for today, folks. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality, and I thank each and every one of you for watching.